I am a shopping queen. I cook for 30 hedge funders and I shop for them every single day. And so I know every grocery store around here inside and out. Most grocery store people know me too, and so it's interesting how when you shop as much as I do, you learn a lot of stuff about the way grocery stores work. Do you guys all shop locally, most of you? Or, okay. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of, if you missed it, there was a sheet out there that had all the different local supermarkets, all the international ones. And so those are the ones that I suggest around Irvine, Tustin area. Those are the good ones. Prices are amazing, and I'll go through that in a second. Take that with you. The one that a lot of people don't know about that's really interesting is Claro's. Claro's Italian Market in Tustin. If you've never been there, it's a little gem. It's the cutest little store, Italian food, and you could stand there for an hour tasting meats and they'll let you do that. So just ask them whatever you want to taste. So I'm going to go through this really quickly. It's really interesting, the statistics about groceries. We spent less than we did 30 years ago on food, if you can imagine that. Price of food has gone down drastically over the years with the way we eat and the way things are done. So if you look, in 1982, are these screens up too? Yeah, right. 1982 is all the way up to about 13%, and in 2012 it was only about 7–8% of what you made you spent on it. But if you look at the next chart, you'll notice that processed food is the main thing that we're buying now. So there is reasons why food is cheaper, and the main reason is we're buying a lot more processed stuff. This is just two little quick charts. There's been a change in price in almost everything from pork chops, but peppers, vegetables have gone up in price. So meat has dropped a lot, but vegetables on the other hand have risen, and flour and bread also, just a little bit. Basic grocery shopping guide. There's, first of all, planning your menu. If you've never planned a menu before, it's the first step and the easiest way to make sure that you don't overshop and make sure that you don't buy things that you don't need. You separate it, and if you need a form, I'll send that to you, but also keep a list of what you have at home. It's really hard for people to do, I understand, but do it. It will help you save a lot of money at the grocery store, because if you know what you have at home, you won't buy it again. And then try to buy fresh whenever possible. Next one would be frozen with no additives. So no salt, no sugar, nothing added to it. But I would say fresh if it's in season. And then there's these three labels. There's the American Heart Association one with the red heart check one. That's a great one to look for. The whole grain one, which I talked about last week. And then there's this new one. This is the Nouvel, I don't even know how to say it, 1/100 nutritional scoring system. Unfortunately, San Francisco is the only city in California right now that has it. They're in about 31 different states right now, except California just started. They're starting with Kroger's. They're doing a test run. It's the greatest system for shopping. They put a sticker and they give it a rating out of 100. So if it's a healthy food, it'll be closer to 100. If it's less, then it'll be lower. So all you have to look for in the future would be this sticker, and it'll give you a nutritional analysis based on, they do their own calculations, and if you go on the Nouvel website, they explain how they calculate it. But it includes everything from the fiber content to the calories, the fat, and then they give it a score, and out of 100. So it's a really cool way. But we should be seeing it soon. You can email them and tell them to put it in your local grocery store. Did you guys know that Wednesday's the day to shop? Do you guys know that? Okay. There's a study. There are studies, and it is proven that Wednesday is the day to go to the grocery store. There's a few reasons. Coupon fanatics out there know this, I think. Diane, I'm looking at you. No. What happens is, ads get released on Tuesday so that you get them delivered to your house on Wednesday. Tuesday, though, is still the previous week's sales going on. But they print the ads on Tuesday. So if you go into the store sometimes, you can pick up the Wednesday ad, but it's for the future, and they'll sometimes cross over the sale items for you. So try that once in a while and see if it, Ralph's, Albertsons, usually those places are pretty good about it. Shop early or late. The worst time to shop is right after work. I know that's when you like to shop, but it's the worst time to shop because everybody else is doing it at that time too. So if you can really hold off, late is actually the best time because a lot of things go on sale at that time. If there's produce going bad, they'll usually put it on clearance at around, sometime around 7-ish, 8-ish. Asian grocery stores, especially the Korean ones, they put prepared food out at 50% off, up to like sometimes 60% off after 7 p.m. It's just because they're going to just throw it away anyways, and so they just put it on discount. Fruit is a great thing to buy, even though it doesn't look nice. Like bananas might be they might be a little bit dinged up and so on and so forth. But bananas are really good ripe like that, especially frozen. Just take it home, peel it, and throw it in the freezer, and you're saving about half the amount of money you would spend normally on a bunch of bananas. There are studies too that say that ripe bananas are better for you than green bananas. But green bananas have a resistant starch in them that makes you full, so you don't eat as much. So there's benefits of eating both sides of the scale, I guess. Try to use the self-checkout line. If you have alcohol, don't even try. I always see the person with the alcohol waiting in line for self-checkout, and you can't buy alcohol at a self-checkout line. Just remember that. You need to go through a regular line. But self-checkout lines are really helpful. I find that most Albertsons tend to only have 1 or 2 checkers now because most people just go through that self-checkout line. So try it out if you can, and if you can, don't pay with the check because it gets the person behind you really upset. The check writing is something that's kind of out of date, but a lot of people still do it. So where do you shop? Traditional markets, Albertsons, Ralph's, Vaughn's, Food for Less, those places. Good things, they accept coupons, incentives, and loyalty programs. Cons. It's a one-stop shop. They have detergent. They have Ziploc bags. So it means that everything else will also go up in price. But they are the best ones to go to for couponing. So if you are somebody that does collect coupons, they're the best deal out there. Natural health stores, organic stores, Whole Foods, and Mother's Market. I normally would include Trader Joe's and Sprouts in this category, but I'm not. And the reason is because Whole Foods and Mother's Markets, Whole Foods is large, Mother's Market is small. But they carry the same type of items in the sense that they have a lot more organic produce. They have a lot of organic produce, and they have a lot of organic grains, and they also have a lot of allergy-free areas. So you've got your gluten-free area, like nut-free area, and things like that, so that there's no cross-contamination. If you have those issues, those are the places to go. But they have higher prices. So it just depends on what you want. And they have a very limited selection, especially at Mother's Market. If you ever go to Mother's Market and you're trying to buy something unique that's not health related, it's incredibly hard to buy. Meat, Mother's does carry some meat, but very little. If you need to buy your organic meats, just go to Whole Foods. And I won't talk anymore about organic meats. Okay, so where to shop? You guys already have this. Another one, international markets. These are my favorite markets. They're cheaper. They have hard to find items. Some carry halal meat, some carry kosher, but really hard to communicate at some of them. A lot of them carry expired goods. Hope nobody's associated with Wholesome Choice. Wholesome Choice is such a large store that they don't do a very good job of turnover sometimes. Like they don't check something that's been on the shelf for a long time. So when you go to Wholesome Choice, make sure you just, if it's something really unique like a jar of harissa sauce or something like that, look at the date because sometimes they are expired. And you just tell them and then they'll take it off the shelf. Their vegetables, their produce, they do a special way of buying. The reason why Wholesome Choice, Super Irvine, their produce is so cheap is because they do a unique way, they do it in a unique way. There's produce markets where these supermarkets go and get all their produce. There's a front of the line, the first people. So maybe somebody like restaurants, fine-end restaurants like the Montage. They get first dibs. They get to pick anything that they want, but they'll pay the higher price for it. Super, Irvine, Wholesome Choice, they get the ends. They get what's left over. So they get to buy it for a lot cheaper because it's the stuff that nobody else wants to really buy. The other thing is at a lot of the Asian supermarkets, especially in Westminster, sometimes at 99 Ranch, you'll find people who have grown their own produce at home and sell it. Dragon fruit was a big one that people were just selling that they grew at home. There's a couple of them out there, but they do grow their own fruit and then sell it to a grocery store. So sometimes you're buying pretty organic stuff at those places. 99 Ranch for all Asian items. Not the one on Jeffrey, but the one on Culver. Culver, the large old 99 Ranch, has about double the amount of selection that the new 99 Ranch has. So be careful of that. Big warehouse markets, Sam's, Costco, Smart and Final. Costco is a gem for beef. There was a report recently that said that how beef is just one of those most mishandled meats out there, from ground beef to steaks to everything. Costco tests their meat in 1 month, the amount that the whole nation tests the nation's meat in a year. They do it about 106 times a month, whereas the nation does it 106 times a year. So they test their meat so much that it's never cross-contaminated, and they bring it in whole. So it's their own butchers butchering the meat. It never gets processed anywhere else. And so buy your meat and beef and seafood from Costco. But the main thing is that obviously there's not as many selections, and you have to buy that large amount. Freezes really well, though. Farmers Market. The three in Irvine, Irvine Farmers, Great Park, Historic Park, and Irvine Ranch. And Rika, come here. Rika actually works at the Saturday Farmers Market. So so if you ever want to go see her, she'll help you pick up some good produce at her stand. She's got some really good fruits. And so if you guys go visit her, she'll get you some good stuff too. But it's great to buy local produce if possible, but prices change a lot. Just depending on what the farmer can charge that day or whether or not they have certain things. Other markets, so this is where I put Trader Joe's and Sprouts. The reason why is because their prices are a little bit cheaper, especially their produce. The produce that you would normally find at Albertsons would be half off at a Sprouts. So before you go to a Vons, Ralph's, or anything like that, try a Trader Joe's or Sprouts, but Trader Joe's produce is hit or miss sometimes too, especially the prepackaged stuff. Try to buy things that aren't packaged because it's hot. When you buy produce, you want to see the whole thing. You don't want to see just one side of it. Peppers are the one culprit. Peppers, try definitely never to buy packaged. Alrighty, so this is the layout of a supermarket. I know you can't see it very well, but what you should do is only walk on the outside. Never go through the middle aisles. The middle aisles are where you're going to lose a lot of money and also spend a lot of calories. It's a trick. It's one of those things that it helps market. They put things in certain areas so that you do that. If you look at the top left corner, that's usually where the bakery is. And the smells of the bakery when you're waiting in line will entice you to buy something baked, whether it be bread, certain things like that. So that's why they put the bakery there. They also put the meat, fish, and dairy, the things that you might need, the furthest away from the store so that you have to walk there, so that you are forced to see everything else that you might want to buy. This is the other thing, aisles and the way that they place things. There's 4 levels. There's the high level, and that's usually a local or gourmet, so it's expensive stuff that's on top. Eye level, most advertise they pay the most for that shelf space. Each shelf costs a different price. And then there's the kids level. The level where the kids can reach, that's a dangerous section, because that's where all the sweet stuff is, and they can grab it then. They put it there for a reason. And then the bottom shelf. The bottom shelf is the best shelf, because that's where all the cheap stuff is. So get down on your knees and look and try and look at the price breakdown. They usually do it by unit prices, especially at places like Ralph's and Vons. Look for that and you'll really know what you're paying for the food. But yeah, so definitely understand the layout. So let's talk about the food, because so you guys have the recipes for today. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to turn on the cameras. I think we got it adjusted correctly.
So
we did, right?
They're reversed though.
Okay.
So like this is the stove top, and the other one is the cutting board.
Okay. It doesn't matter, right? Let's see. Left. Oh, got it? Sweet. Okay. So, you guys we'll do the glass noodle salad first. This is one of those, I made it vegetarian because I wanted to show, so the 3 recipes that I did were all unique in the sense that they all have ingredients that you probably think you can never find. And so that's why I wanted to do it, because I wanted to show you that you can find these ingredients. I do have one ingredient that I still haven't been able to find, and that's sodium bicarbonate. So there's certain things out there that you still can't find, but most things you can find to make things authentic. Oh, on that sheet, you have a Thai and Laos market that's in Anaheim. Go there if you can. It's the cutest little place, and they have a restaurant right next door. It's a hole in the wall, literally. But it's really fun. And then the other thing is, I didn't put a Filipino market on there, but if you go to 99 Ranch now, I would say about big 99 Ranch, so the one on Culver, 2 aisles from the freezer section on the right-hand side, there's a new Filipino section. That is the stinkiest section there is because they have all the dried fishes, all the dried shrimps and everything. And so if you thought Vietnamese food or fish sauce was bad, you should go smell some of the Filipino stuff too. But then there's a couple Filipino markets. There's one in Laguna El Toro, off El Toro. And so if you want to know that one's a good one, and I can send you that recipe. So for this noodle salad, we're using mung bean noodle threads. They're one of my favorite noodles. They're gluten-free, but guess what? They're very high in calories, very high. And so it's one of those things, because it's just the starch from the mung beans. High in calories, okay, when I say that, I don't mean like ridiculous amounts. It's not to the point. Let me see. Calories, 224, oh no, yeah. So this is a 2-ounce, and this will serve 4 to 6 people. And so this is about 200 calories, and it'll serve that many people, and it's gluten-free. The way you do this, though, is completely different from the Chinese way. In the Chinese, when we cook this in Chinese food, what we do is we soak it in water, and then we cook it. But what happens is it gets too soft sometimes. So the way that you make this is you pour the boiling water over it, and 6 minutes, that's it. If you do any more than 6 minutes, it's over. It'll be too mushy. So I'm going to put this here, and then you want it to be a pretty roaring boil. And then you're just going to pour it right on top. And then it's going to soak there for 6 minutes. Oops, thank you. And that's it. So that's going to soak while we get the rest of our ingredients. We finished using it today, but oh, can you grab me the celery? Not the Chinese one. Did you guys taste the celery in your salad? Okay, that's not regular celery. That's called Chinese celery. And I used it all because I was so excited that it was on sale at 99 Ranch. Chinese celery looks like regular celery, only the stems are really, really thin, and the leaves start about halfway. They're stronger in taste, they're more vibrant, and it's something that I would say 80% of the soup dishes that you find in Asia, they'll always add a little bit on top. So you can use regular celery, or you can use that celery. This celery also has a little bit more gristle to it, and so a lot of people just don't like using that. They don't like using this in that salad. But all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it. If you were using this one, you would just cut the ends off, and you would use the leaves, and then just cut strips out of it and dice it. So all of this is going to get mixed inside. The other thing you have in there is mint, cilantro, and also Thai basil. So Thai basil is this guy right here. I call it a savory basil. There's a few different basils out there. Persian basil, which is like a lemon basil, use that for desserts. Don't buy the basil in Persian or like at Wholesome Choice or anything like that and think it's American basil. American basil, the only place that you can get good American basil for a good price, Trader Joe's, yep. I swear, that is the only place to go. There's not really that many. Albertsons and Vons have started kind of bundling their own, and those are okay, but they're double the price what you would pay at Trader Joe's. So, but try to buy American basil is a really big leaf. This is Thai basil, and it's a lot smaller of a leaf, and I find it to be a savory basil, something salty. It's not sweet like an American basil can be, or the lemon basil can be too. And then we've got mint too. Mint, same idea, 49 cents a bunch at most of the Persian markets. And so all I'm doing is I'm just picking off leaves. You don't have to use all of it. You can use as much as you want. To cut the basil though, you want to roll it up. I put the mint in the middle, so just to make my life easier. But you want to roll it up and then cut. Or you can tear it too. But if you don't have a sharp knife, what will happen is the edge of the basil will turn black, and you can taste that bitterness after a while. So try to always cut basil with a sharp knife. And then we've got cilantro. For the cilantro part, the stems have the most flavor. If you like the taste of cilantro, use the stems. A lot of people think that they don't like green curry too, but they do. Green curry is made, they think that they don't like cilantro, but they like green curry. Green curry is 80% cilantro. So, and the main part of the cilantro is the stem that they use for green curry. This is what I do for parsley too. Sharp knife, hold your whatever herb that you have that you're going to give a haircut to. And then you're going to use your knife and just scrape along the stems. And it'll come right off, and then you can go back in and chop. That way you have a little bit of stem, not too much stem, and that all gets chopped up and mixed inside too. So there's mint, basil, and cilantro in there. And then you're going to add red onion too. Red onions, great. They have been going up in price like crazy though. So if you're not going to use if you don't use red onions at home, just use a regular sweet onion or brown onion. But this is what you need to do. You want to cut it, the ends off, and then slice. Traditionally in Thailand, when they serve this, they wouldn't use red onion. They would use a shallot. But shallots are this big, and they take forever to clean. They're really dirty. So just use a red onion. It's not going to make that big of a difference. If you really wanted to, you can use a shallot. The main thing, though, is that you want to take your onions and soak them in water, because the taste of it is just so strong that it just doesn't come together. It's just too strong. It's overpowering. So soak it in the water for a little bit and then mix it together. And my noodles are almost done. Okay. The other ingredients that go in here, lime juice and fish sauce. I gave you guys vegetarian fish sauce today, and I bet you didn't know it existed. It does. 99 Ranch doesn't have it. You have to go all the way down to Westminster for this guy. Any of the supermarkets in Westminster will have this though. Amazing substitute. It's better than the substitute I gave you. The substitute I gave you is 2 parts soy sauce and a little bit of lime juice. This stuff is soybeans. So they use different types of soybeans, and they make the flavor out of that. And then they put chilies inside, and then they put other good stuff and let it soak. There's vinegar in here as well. So that's your vegetarian fish sauce. But if you like regular fish sauce, this is the only brand you can buy. You should be buying, the 3 Crab. Don't try any other fish sauce out there. Some of them can be pretty bad. So use this guy if you're using regular fish sauce. So that's all going to get mixed together. And then the 2 last ingredients that we have, chili powder and rice powder. Rice powder you guys can make on your own. All you do is you toast rice on a platter or on the stove and grind it in a little coffee grinder. There's a part of the recipe where you can roast your chili pepper. Has anybody ever done that before? Powdered chili pepper. Okay. I roast whole chili peppers all the time, but you can roast this guy too. I'm not going to show you because what happens is it's so strong, and there's like a little bit of liquid still in there from the natural cayenne. What happens is it'll start to burn, and the heat from the pepper will go straight up into the air. especially if you burn it to the point where you might actually start crying. So if you try that at home, be very careful, have a really well ventilated kitchen before you do that, and then mix it in, because you don't want it going everywhere. So I'm just going to toss this together. When the noodles are done, you also want to make sure that you want to cut them with scissors. Oh, sweet, thank you. So you just want to cut them with scissors because they're they're kind of big chunks of it. So you just want to do it a little bit into bite-sized pieces. It's like when you're a mom and you're traveling with a little kid. You always have a pair of scissors in your, oh, I remember my mom did. So you're going to mix that inside. If you want to add a little oil, you can. You don't have to. But then I'm going to add my fish sauce. And this is the problem with vegetarian fish sauce. They add a lot of stuff inside of it, so you can't, so that it keeps the flavor, but it doesn't come out as easily. And then a lime. So if you don't want to use a whole lime, you can just stick a little hole in there and then squeeze out, or I'm just going to take my lime and juice it straight into there. And that's it. Oops. And that's going to get tossed together. And then you can add peanuts. I added peanuts into it. You can pretty much add anything else that you might like with it. Oop, there we go. But then that's your salad. And you're ready to go for that one. Any questions about that? Yeah? Sweet. Okay. Next one is the, how do you say it? The tsukune. Tsukune? Tsukune? I can't say it correctly. This is an interesting recipe. Oh, I can use this again. Yeah. I'm going to show you the vegetarian version. But the main reason why I wanted to do this recipe again was because there's a whole bunch of random stuff in here that you normally wouldn't find. First of all, these guys, yuzu. This is a yuzu. You guys like ponzu? You know, like the ponzu soy sauce? This is the only fruit that you can use to make ponzu. If you aren't using yuzu, it's not real ponzu. 3 of these are $3.99. Very expensive. They're imported from Japan. I have a feeling that a lot of people try to grow this, but it's not that easy to grow. So I'll leave these up here for you guys to smell, but you want to use the peel on the outside because that's where a lot of the flavor is. To make the vegetarian one, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take breadcrumbs that I use with real bread. So I don't even take the crust off. You can if you want, but I find it's just extra work to do that. And you want fresh breadcrumbs. You don't want the dry stuff. You want the fresh ones, the ones that'll pick things up. Ooh. So you want something that, and then you'll always get one big piece still left in there. I always say, buy a food processor before you buy a mixer. You'll be so happy with a food processor because I can make pies in here too. It's the best tool to make pies with. And then I'm going to also add walnuts. So you can choose any nuts that you want. It's completely up to you. And then add that in. I was going to say, if you take this recipe and you wanted to make it more of a Western meatball, just add nutritional yeast into it. It'll give it that cheesy taste that you might be looking for in a meatball. Nutritional yeast is one of those things that they add in a lot of vegetarian food. And then we have our tofu. So this is a piece of firm tofu. You could do this with regular tofu, like the soft stuff. It really shouldn't matter. You just don't want to over-process it and make it into liquid. That's the main thing. So you're just going to break it up into smaller pieces. And you'll notice more liquid coming out of it after you do this, too. And that's it. So it looks like that. It looks like baby food mush. I'm going to add in my oats. Quick cooking oats too, because you don't cook these for long enough and there's not much else going on in there. So you just want a quick cooking oat. You don't want a regular one. And then I'm going to mix that inside. And then I've got ginger, salt, sugar, garlic, and cornstarch, and onion powder too. For anything, and sesame oil and soy sauce. For most recipes that are vegetarian, like a vegetarian meatball, a substitute of some sort, you'll notice that you add a lot of flavor to it. You need all that flavor just because it tastes like nothing. I find that people who say they don't like tofu don't like it because they just have never had good tofu. Tofu doesn't taste like anything, so it should taste like whatever else. So I'm gonna use a yuzu if you can find a yuzu, or you can just use a lemon and zest that in. The last ingredient is the coolest ingredient. It's not necessary. It's fine if you can't find it, if you can't buy it, but it is one of my favorite things to use. And it's a great binder. It binds things together. And it's this little guy. What do you call it? Yame, yame. I know how to say it in Chinese. How do you say?
Yamaimo?
Yamaimo. Yamaimo. Yeah. So they consider it an edible yam. In Chinese, it's the mountain medicine. I don't know why they call it that. It looks like this though. Really dusty, not a very pretty looking guy. They have it at almost all Japanese restaurants. Watch this though. You eat it raw and you grate it. So you can grate it onto anything, but I want you to see how slimy it is. Do you see that? This is what holds it all together though. This is your binder. So when you make the turkey ones, they're very, very soft. It preserves the moisture of the food that you're cooking. So if you're making meatballs and you add a couple, this doesn't taste like anything either. You add it in, it'll give it a cool kind of moisture that you don't necessarily get with regular food. Yeah, it's really sticky. It's like, I call it boogers sometimes. In Japanese restaurants, what they do is they mix that with a little bit of tuna, like the raw tuna, and then a tiny bit of soy sauce and a tiny bit of wasabi, and you mix it up and then you slurp it down. And sometimes they'll add a raw egg into there too. So it's one of those things that it took me a while to like too, don't worry, but you can't even taste it in here, and it's one of the healthiest things you could be eating. Because it's raw, first of all, and it's still considered a root vegetable. There aren't that many root vegetables that you eat raw, and that's one of them. And so therefore, it's also expensive. It's on sale at 99 Ranch right now, though, $3.99 a pound. We're at Mitsuya. Mitsuya is where I went to get it the first time. It's $6.99 a pound there. That's the usual price for it. So you just want to mix this together until you get kind of a good working dough, or a good looking dough. And then you just roll. You just roll them into balls, just like that. And you'll notice how well they stick together. This is actually easier to make than the turkey one. This one works really well. And you bake it. And you bake it with a sauce. So I made the sauce earlier, and it's just pretty much a teriyaki glaze. It's just soy sauce, ginger, garlic, sake, and mirin. So let's talk sake for a second. Sake is rice wine, soju, and all these other great rice wines. Sake is a rice wine. Mirin is just sake or a rice wine of some kind with sugar added to it. So if you don't have mirin at home, it's completely okay. Just add sugar. Just add extra sugar into it, but a lot. Mirin is almost 50-50. It's so thick sometimes that it's scary that's how much sugar is inside of it. So you can add that, and then you're going to mix it up and then add cornstarch and water and thicken it up. And then you bake each one with a little bit of sauce on top. So I would take that, and I would grab a little sauce, and I'll roll it in here. And you can just glaze it over just like that. And then you're going to pick it up, and you're going to bake it. And that's all you have to do. And you can serve with extra sauce on the side if you want. You don't have to, though. And the last recipe, flourless tangerine cake. There's a reason for all these recipes today. If you're interested in macarons, I'm doing another macaron workshop coming up in spring. So I am doing another one. It's one of those classes that everybody just seems to like a lot, but I was just explaining to somebody, if it rains, don't come. No, I'm just kidding. Still come, but still, the rain makes a difference for macarons. This is the reason why almond meal, you don't need to go to Whole Foods. You don't need to go to any of those places. Just go to Wholesome Choice. $5.99 for a pound. It's not sifted for you yet, but it's just as easy to use as the stuff that Bob's makes and all the other companies. It's coarse, but this is what's good for your cake. And then the first thing, you actually have 3 fruits in yours. We've got 2 different types of tangerines and a sweet lemon. You can use whichever fruits you want. You could even add yuzu in there if you wanted. But taste your fruit. You might need to add more sugar into it afterwards, okay? So just taste your fruit before you use it. You boil it twice, 15 minutes, and then you're going to pour out the water in between each one. It helps with the bitterness that you might get on the skin, as well as any pesticides, things like that you might want to get rid of. So what you want to do is you want to boil it, cool it down, and then cut it open. Look for any seeds. Sometimes things say they have no seeds, and yet they have a lot of seeds. And so just always check, because you don't want seeds in your food. And then if you've got like a little green top like that, try to take it off too. You don't want any stems, any green, anything like that. So this has seeds in it, so I would go in and I'd pick it out. And then you just stick it all into the food processor, and you've got this puree. It smells so good. When I was doing this yesterday, it smelled so nice. You're going to mix that with your egg. And I've got 3 eggs. Let me tell you how you would do this differently. No, it's okay. I got it. Let me tell you how you would do this differently if you wanted to. If you wanted a fluffier, lighter cake, separate your eggs and your whites. Beat your egg whites up to a stiff peak with the sugar and fold it in. You'll get a lighter cake as opposed to this denser cake. This one, the reason why it's so dense is because all we're going to do is we're going to mix our sugar and eggs together and whip that up as high as you can. And I'm not talking like a big, big, voluminous thing. You just want to mix it so that it turns color. You want it to be kind of like a yellowish, light yellow color. Oh yeah, and the way to mix if you're by yourself and you need a lot of arm speed and things, move both hands. So move your bowl while you're whisking. And when you whisk, use your whole arm. Don't use your wrist. You're gonna hurt yourself if you do that. So in order to do it, use your whole arm and whisk like that. You'll get more out of it because you're almost doing 2 motions at once. So keep doing that. And that's all I'm looking for. I'm just looking for a light yellow color. Nothing fluffy, nothing like that. I'm just going to mix. I'm going to add my fruit mixture inside of that and mix. And so that is the base, almost like what's holding everything together, that fruit mixture. And then I'm going to add vanilla into this guy. And I'm going to add my baking soda into my almond flour. You always want to make sure to keep your dry ingredients together and your wet ingredients together whenever possible. It kind of helps with the way things work. There's certain reasons why you do layering when you bake, why you add certain ingredients first. And so the reason why we keep the baking powder and baking soda away from liquids is because it starts reacting right away. If you like puff in your food, as soon as the baking soda, baking powder touches the liquid, it does an activation. Baking powder double activation means liquid and heat. And so there's 2 ways that it's activated. It's activated when it hits the liquid, and it's activating when it hits the heat. So that's why double acting baking powder is one of the best choices for anything that you want a kind of puff to. So I'm going to just add this in. You can fold it in if you want, or you can just mix it in. It's really up to you. If you're doing the egg whites, though, and you want to fold it in, this is what you do. I just thought I'd show you a folding technique. Go up, around, and down and around. Up, down, and around. Up, down, and around. And You can lighten up your batter the first time by mixing in a whole bunch and then adding in the rest later. So you just do it slowly, but you want to keep going underneath and back up, underneath and back up. And then you bake that. You can bake it as a cake, or you can make cupcakes out of it, and then just sprinkle it with a little bit of powdered sugar when you're done. Yeah, any questions? Yeah? Unsifted. So I find that the easiest way, I'll just grab parchment. This is the easiest way to sift. You just grab a sifter and sift, but sift onto something like this. You can sift onto a small cutting board if you want, but I find that the easiest thing to use is parchment. So if you sift on here, all you have to do is pick it back up and then pour it down. So I would just take that and then just sift it right on top of that. It doesn't have to be a fine sift, so it doesn't have to be like flour. You'll still get some chunks in it. But the main thing that you're looking for when you sift almond meal is skin. Because sometimes there's leftover skin of the almond in the almond meal, and that can taste a little bit bitter. And that's the only reason why you sift. And so there's still going to be some big chunks in there. If you want to throw it out, you can. If you're mixing it like this, not doing the egg white version, just mix it in. It's okay. It's not going to hurt you. If you're doing the egg white version, go through the trouble of sifting then, and it'll make everything a lot fluffier. Yeah? Yeah, you can. Just use, you can use a Vitamix. You can actually, I would say use a food processor before you use a Vitamix, because the Vitamix will actually make it into butter. Yeah, it'll make almond butter before it makes almond flour. So, or you just have slowly for the Vitamix. But food processor, yeah, just chuck it all in there and let it go and forget about it for a little bit. If you make macaroons, you can even add the sugar in with the almonds and grind it all together, and you don't even use powdered sugar. So there's different ways of doing the almond meal, but it's a great substitute for baking if you don't want to use regular flour. Higher in calories, but healthier for you too. Yeah?
Can you freeze the puree?
Yes. Yes, you can freeze that fruit puree. The only thing that I would suggest you, okay, so most fruits you cannot freeze because of the amount of water content in them. This, because it's been cooked, or at least blanched kind of, and pureed already, you just want to make sure it comes to room temperature, because you want all that liquid in your food. You want all of those juices. Whereas most of the time when you freeze something and take it back out, you don't want all that extra liquid that's come out of it. So yeah, you can definitely freeze this. Yeah, you can stir fry the noodles. The most interesting dish that you get when you stir fry the noodles, there's actually one, if you want to go look it up, it's called Ants on a Tree. And it's the direct translation, and all it is it's, oh, you don't eat meat, but you can use fake ground. Use fake ground, because I know you're a vegetarian. You use fake ground meat, and then you cook it with black bean sauce, spicy black bean sauce, and then you just throw the noodles in at the very, very end, and it's a hot dish too. The other one that you can use that would be good is the japchae noodles, the Korean noodles made out of yams. That has a real crunch to it, and that one's a really good one to use as well. But those are made out of sweet potatoes, yams, and so they have a different texture than the mung bean ones do. Any other questions? Thank you guys for coming out again. See you next week, hopefully.